we're going to be talking about two important factors that shaped history: slave labor and factory systems. Has anyone heard these terms before?
Me. I heard of those terms before, but I still don't know what it means yet. Could you explain that to me?
First, Trey, let's start with the factory system. Shelby, would you mind explaining to Trey what the factory systems are?
Yeah, the factory system began during the Industrial Revolution. Before factories, people worked at home or in small workshops. But as new machines were invented, like steam engines, factories started popping up. These were big buildings where workers used machines to produce goods faster and more efficiently.
Wait, so workers weren't doing it by hand anymore?
Yeah, the machines did a lot of the work. This led to mass productions, and workers worked long hours in poor conditions for low wages. So it wasn't all good.
The factory system led to more goods being produced, but it also created many problems, such as child labor and unsafe environments.
I guess that makes sense, but how does slave labor fit into all of this?
Question, Trey. Slave labor is different because it wasn't about machines or factories. It was about the people being forced to work. They'd usually work on plantations or in mines. They also weren't paid, and they'd be treated like they were property, not as actual human beings.
Yeah, and slaves were often captured or born into slavery. They had no choice but to work under brutal conditions. It was mostly common in America, where enslaved people had to work in cotton fields, tobacco fields, and sugar plantations.
So unlike the factory system, where people work for wages, slaves didn't get anything in return for their labor?
Yeah, exactly. The factory system. They could leave, negotiate wages, or even ask for better work conditions. Slaves, on the other hand, they were legally owned and had no control over their own lives.
Wow, so these two systems were both forms of exploitation, but they were really different in how they treated people.
Yeah, the factory system focused on cheap labor in industrial settings, while slave labor was about denying basic human rights in agriculture and other stuff like that.
Exactly. Both systems were crucial in shaping economies and societies, but they also caused suffering. Understanding them helps us see how far we've come and also how important it is to fight for our workers and human dignity.
Thanks. I now understand how important these two things shaped history.
Glad to hear. Let's move on to the next topic.